Today I want to answer a common question I get asked an awful lot, but how much is it going to cost to actually develop, a wooded lot in Middle Tennessee with, 3 RV sites, possibly a utility shed. I know I have some impatient subscribers out there, so for the impatient, the answer is about 60 grand. So how do I come up with the 60 grand? Well, here's a breakdown. And I'm going to tell you how I came up with a budget for each of these numbers. So let's get right into it. Hi, this is Comet Troy, the RV park builder. And I'm not coming to you from Harmony Ridge RV Park today. I'm actually in LA. That's redneck for Lower Alabama. That's right, I'm recording this video down in Lower Alabama, along the Gulf of Mexico. Had to get away from Tennessee for a little bit, for a little vacay, a little rest and relaxation. It's getting a little burnt out on videos, so decided to pick it back up. I'm getting the itch and want to get, back on the air here. Today I want to answer a common question I get asked an awful lot. And the scenario is, hey Comet, I recently purchased some land in Middle Tennessee. I have an RV. I maybe want to build a house on it, in a few years when I retire. I want to put a couple RV pads on it now, so I can drive my RV there and, have a place for my family and friends to go, so I don't have to, go through the hassle of, having to find a campsite and then, is it available and the cost and pay for that. I just want to have a place that I can, just go in my RV whenever I want and not have to deal with all the rigmarole of getting an RV site. So the question becomes is, I understand what it's going to cost for the land. It depends upon the acreage and the location, but how much is it going to cost to actually develop, a wooded lot in Middle Tennessee with, 3 RV sites, possibly a utility shed, and what is that going to cost once I have the land? I have no idea. I know I have some impatient subscribers out there, so for the impatient, the answer is about 60 grand. However, there's a lot of it depends, It can vary widely of how much it costs to improve a lot. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. So what I'm going to be sharing is just, typical, what I have seen, my experience for developing a lot in Middle Tennessee, about an hour and a half southwest of Nashville. So your mileage will vary and you can adjust the numbers accordingly. But, maybe what I'm about to share is, a good baseline for you. If you want to know how I come up with that number and some more details, I'm going to be going through that here next. So let's start with some assumptions. So when I say 60 grand, the assumptions I'm making is a heavily wooded lot in Middle Tennessee, lots of trees. Perhaps it has a hunting path down it or a logging path. There's electric already at the road. There's water available at the property, 200 to 300 feet down, 300 feet down the aquifer, and RV sites and shed fairly close to the road. I'm talking within 200 feet of the road, not way back 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet. I also make the assumption that you're going to be the GC or the general contractor. What that means is, you're not just going to write a check to one person and, have your lot done. You're actually going to be involved in the build out. As a general contractor, you're going to reach out to, to dirt workers, to electricians, to plumbing people, septic people. You're going to get your 3 bids and you're going to decide which one is the best one to go with. You're going to monitor the work and pay them. So this estimate does not include hiring a general contractor to do all that for you. So if you're going to do that, that obviously is going to, add another 10, 20, 25% onto the cost of the project. So how do I come up with the 60 grand? Well, here's a breakdown. About $10,000 for land clearing, driveway and build sites, $15K for a septic system, about $20,000 for a well water, $10,000 for electric, and about $5,000 for utility shed. I haven't really seen anyone who's actually, built or improved a lot yet without, putting a utility shed to, put some tools in, maybe a UTV, wheelbarrows, hand tools, chainsaws, that sort of thing. Of course, the alternative of that would be to rent a storage locker in town, which will cost you about $100 a month. But, most people like to build a shed and have that on site. Next, we're gonna talk about each one of these, and I'm going to tell you how I came up with a budget for each of these numbers and factors that affect the price, so that you'll be able to adjust your prices up and down and come up with a realistic budget for yourself. So let's get right into it. So land clearing, I have $10,000 on that. So that should, get you a couple days of excavator, bulldozer work to remove trees, including the root balls. And, those contractors typically are going to be anywhere from $125 to, $200 an hour. So worst case, $200 an hour times 8 hours is about $1,600 a day. You're going to have at least, 2-3 days of that. And when I say, land clearing, I'm including in that clearing trees, the stumps, making your driveways, grading the driveways, your RV sites, your RV pads, putting a chert surface. Down in Tennessee, we use chert, which is a very hard compacting silicate material that's plentiful in Tennessee. You can find it from $150 to $300 a dump truck load. So you put that down first for your driveway as your RV pad, and then a lot of people put crush run rock on top of that, and they do that to keep down the dust that comes up from chert, and also allows you to have good water shedding through those larger crush run rocks. So that's what's included in the $10,000 you should be able to do. And again, this assumes 200 feet from the road. I mean, you're not going to be able to put a driveway in that goes a quarter mile into your lot and then have a big several areas around there. This is just the basics. So factors that impact the land clearing costs. Probably the biggest factor, well, these are all probably pretty even, but the tree disposal method is going to have an impact on the cost of what it costs to clear the land. So, and I have a video linked above and down in the description of the different land clearing methods. So the most inexpensive way is to just have them bulldozed into the hollers and let the animals use them for shelter. You can burn them. They make a big bonfire in the middle of your lot and burn the trees. You can have the root balls hauled away or buried. So there are a lot of options there that affect the cost here. The other factor that affects the land clearing costs is how much they got to do. Being 200 feet from the road, they have less land clearing and less driveways to make than 1,000 feet in. And then the area to be cleared is also important. How big are your RV sites going to be? How far apart are they going to be from each other? And then electrical. This ties into electrical decision as well. If you're going to go overhead electrical, then you're going to have to clear a 40-foot right-of-way, from the road, back into your property. And that's, 20 feet on each side of where those utility poles are going to go. So, that has to be factored into the land clearing and electrical costs as well. All right, next, I estimate about 15 grand for a septic system. Now, you'll go out there and you'll talk to septic installers, and you'll get estimates of 7 grand, 8 grand, 9 grand, 10 grand, somewhere around there. Maybe 10 10 depending upon how many bedrooms and how many RV sites that you're going to put in. But that's not the only cost. After you have the septic system in, actually before you put the septic system in, you have to have, you know, the land cleared of where that septic field is going to go. Now in this case, you don't have to pull out the root balls. In fact, it's recommended you leave them in, but you have to cut and remove all the trees in order to you know, make ways for the septic installer to, you know, to come in and do their work. Now some septic installers will do the tree clearing for you, so that would be one thing to look for in your septic bids. But most of them don't include that, and they assume that you'll have the area cleared. There's also a $500 septic permit in the state of Tennessee you're going to have to get that covers the permit and the inspections. And then the septic installation itself is usually just the tank and the field lines. So you're going to have to, you know, have extra costs on top of that to connect your RV sites into the septic tank, which includes trenching, PVC, and the labor to put all that in. So that's an additional cost, and that's why I estimate about 15 grand for all of this, even though the septic system itself, you know, may cost, you know, 8 to 12,000. Factors that impact the cost would be, you know, the distance to the septic tank. You know, longer distance, you need more trenching and more PVC lines. The other big factor is the size of the septic system. Now, the way that the state of Tennessee sizes the septic system is they ask you on the permit of how many, you know, what size your house is going to be as far as bedrooms go. So, and they'll go up to, I think, a 5, or I know they'll do a 5-bedroom house or a 6-bedroom house. Now, how does that equate to RV sites? So basically, you each RV site counts as a bedroom. So if you eventually want to do a 3-bedroom house and you're going to do 2 RV sites now, you want to, on your permit, you want to request a 5-bedroom system. You know, 3 bedrooms for the house and 2 for the RV sites. And then the more bedrooms you have, the longer the field lines have to be. So instead of 300 feet, you might be putting in 400 feet or 500 feet of field lines, which of course is more cost as far as trenching and putting the chamber in. All right, a well system, 20 grand. So you're gonna go out and get your estimates, and they're gonna give it to you per foot. Now in Middle Tennessee, our wells are going between 200 and 400 feet. You know, on the smaller end of the scale, you know, your well bill may be, you know, $8,000 to $10,000. You know, medium size maybe, you know, 12,000, and then on the upper end, you know, you might be looking for $15,000 for a well that goes down 400 feet. And the big problem with the well is you don't know how far you're going to go down until it's already being done. So when you go into it, you don't know if you're going to be spending 8 grand, 12 grand, or 15 grand for the well. Now, after you have the well in, you know, there's additional costs that you have to spend. You have to, you know, put in a pressure tank, and you got to run the plumbing, and you got to run, you know, the water lines and trenching to your RV sites, and you have to, you know, put in a pump house, which, you know, looks like a dog house. It's, you know, 2 feet high, and it, you know, you can, you know, lift up a handle and pick it up, and, you know, your pressure tank and your electronics and all that in there, and you have to run, you know, electricity to it, and you got to put in hydrants, frost-free hydrants for your RV sites. Those are running about 7 grand on top of, you know, actually putting the well in, and you know, that also includes the pump. So that's why I come up with about 20 grand for a well system. You know, you're looking at probably, you know, 13 grand for the actual well to the well contractor, and then another 7 grand for the extras to, you know, to make it useful on your property. So, you know, what are the factors that impact the cost? Well, of course, the depth to hit the water is a big factor, and not only hitting water, but having enough gallons per, you know, per minute of flow rate. I've heard, you know, on the low end, you know, 4 gallons per minute. You know, good wells are doing, you know, 10 to 12 gallons per minute. So it really depends upon, You know, every property is different. You roll the dice when it comes to a well. And then, of course, I've heard horror stories where, you know, people hire someone to come out and drill a well and not hit water at all. You know, then what do? You still got to write the check out, you know? So wells are a scary thing. And, you know, fortunately in our subdivision here in Middle Tennessee, our developer, you know, did some test wells. So there's been, you know, water at the test well, and all the property owners so far have hit water between 200 and 400 feet. But of course, you know, your mileage is going to vary. You know, I'm just speaking for our subdivision. You know, you may be another part of Tennessee where you don't hit water at all, and then you're hauling it in or doing rainwater collection. Now, alternatives to a well would be city water if you're lucky enough to have it at the road. You can also do a rain collection system with filters. So that's also a possibility for a water source. And also in our area in Middle Tennessee, up in the hills, we have a lot of natural springs and spring water. I know of one landowner that actually sucks water out of a stream that goes by his house, and they use that for drinking and showering and cooking and everything. Of course, they run it through some filters and, you know, a UV light. They've had it tested, and it's some of the purest water around. So there are alternatives to a well, you know, if needed. So I don't really have costs on that. You know, rainwater collection, sucking it out of a stream is probably, you know, a lot less expensive, but not, you know, you don't really have the consistency and maybe the stability. You know, what happens if your creek dries up or you have a dry spell in the summer with the rainwater? You're kind of screwed. All right, I have a cost of about 10 grand for electric. Now, just know that electric costs vary widely. So when I estimate 10 grand, you know, there's some parameters there that I use. Number one, 200 feet or less from the utility pole, you know, to bring the service in. 200 amp service. You could do a 400 amp service. I found that a 200 amp service, you know, hiring an electrician to come out and build it is about 2 grand, and a 400 amp service typically is about 4 grand. But you know, your mileage will vary on that as well. So I use a 200 amp service, and then once you have the service in, you got to run, you know, your circuits to the RV sites, and then put in a temporary RV panel, you know, that has your 50 and 30 and 20 in there, and those aren't cheap either. So, and then also I included some basic lighting in the utility shed. So I come up with about 10 grand for that. So factors that, you know, affect electrical work is overhead versus underground. That's not bad versus good. I mean, underground versus overhead. I generally like underground. It's more expensive though. You're looking at $40 a foot. So if you're relatively close to the road, say 100 feet or 200 feet, you know, 100 feet of underground, you know, 4 grand. And when I say 4 grand, what I'm talking about there is the electric company's fee to run the wire, paying a contractor to do the trenching for the 3-inch PVC conduit, buying the PVC conduit and installing it is about, you know, all that stuff combined is about $40 a foot. So if you go 1,000 feet in, that's 40 grand. So electric can get expensive real fast. Now, if you just want basic electrical service, you know, for your lot, you know, 100 feet from the utility pole, that, you know, that gets the cost down, you know, pretty significantly. You know, about $2,500 is what I found. If you just want your basic RV pole with overhead power, relatively close to the utility pole, electric company will charge you about $500 to come out and put in your pole for your RV service, and then you're going to pay an electrician about $2,000 for a 200 amp service. And again, your mileage will vary on that. So the $10,000 obviously isn't a single RV pole. It's for 3 RV sites and RV connects and all that. I do have quite a bit of videos on electrical work that we had done at Linden Camp, so some of that may apply or some of it may not. But I do have a playlist that I've created that has all the electrical videos in it, so feel free to click on that, or if you don't see it above, it's down below in the description. That will take you to a bunch of those videos on the electrical side. And last but not least is a utility shed. So in Middle Tennessee, where we're located, I put about $5 grand on there. That's not for a cement foundation. That's not a 2-car garage. It's not a pole barn. It's not a barndominium. We're talking about, a small 12 by 16 utility shed that you might be able to park a UTV in it, put a rake, a shovel in, a few things, storage. And we have a lot of Mennonites, several families in the area that will build these utility sheds and at their place and then bring them to you on a trailer and offload them. So you can get, I've actually looked at prices, you can get a 12 by 16 for under $5 grand delivered to your site. You just got to make the build pad first, and then you'll be responsible for running an electrical circuit to it to run the lights. Factors impacting the cost of the shed obviously is the shed size. If you want to do a cement foundation, that's going to increase the cost. The electrical, and then if you want to do any interior build out of the shed, that of course could be significant. So what you'll get is just 2x4 walls, a floor, ceiling, and that's about it. Christmas is coming up this week, so I just wanted to take a minute and wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'm gonna take the next 2 weeks off, and hopefully my next video will be next year, early January. So with that, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and yours and your loved ones. If you liked the video, please like, comment, subscribe, click on the like button. I think I already said that, and I will see you in the next video.